4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, we're getting reports, CNN reporting that Hamas's military wing commander has rejected the latest proposed ceasefire. And I say this with a smile because the whole thing is just insane. Hey, Barack Obama, what are you calling Benjamin Netanyahu for? What are you telling him we need a ceasefire? Israel keeps agreeing to a ceasefire. Hamas has not agreed to one, and the humanitarian ones they have agreed to, they've broken. So they've rejected it, and they will not have a ceasefire, they say, until the siege ends. The siege of preventing rockets and concrete and building materials that will be used to harm Israel from entering the Gaza Strip. Now, Israel is not the only one participating in this siege. It's also Egypt. And the reason there's this closure is because once Hamas took over Gaza and started lobbing rockets into Israel, they closed it off. They closed it off because it's a terrorist state filled with terrorists who perpetrate terror. And all the media keeps doing over and over and over again is look at every strike that kills a civilian and says, how did it happen? What did Israel do? Meanwhile, Hamas keeps saying, we're not stopping. We're not going to give you a ceasefire. The whole thing is crazy. All right, folks. Andrew Tahmooressi, still in a Mexican prison in Mexico. It's a disgrace. His mom, Jill, is here. She's been with us before. She joins us now, nurse and mother. And Jill, let me ask you first. First, thanks for coming on. How are you doing, Jill?
Well, the latest is Andrew is going before the judge for the second time with his third and new representative, Fernando Benitez. He goes before the judge this coming Monday in Tijuana, Mexico on August 4th.
All right. And what do you hope will happen after that? I mean, is it possible he gets released?
Mr. Benitez says that I need to have realistic expectations, that it's just another hearing. However, I'm hoping that the additional evidence that's set forth before the judge next Monday will be compelling enough for him to move along with urgency a release.
Is there new evidence? In other words, this judge, hasn't he heard it all already?
Well, there's only been one hearing official so far, and that was Andrew's statement. And then two customs agents provided a statement. Andrew was hopeful then that just his statement alone would convict the judge to release him, but it didn't. So we still have the 911 tape that needs to be presented before the judge, as well as the fact that on March 31st, there was no return to U.S. sign at the border, so no opportunity for Andrew to figure out how to get back to the States when he made that wrong turn. And the graffiti-laden on-ramp sign has also been changed to remove the graffiti. So those kinds of evidence need to be presented still to the judge.
Well, okay, do you have the old sign with the graffiti? Do you have the pictures of how it was on the night that he was involved, or do they only now have the the workover, the changes that make it look bad for your son?
No, the attorney is doing before and after, so clearly
oh,
there's
good.
Yes.
Well, that now all this is wonderful, and we pray. And by the way, I want to tell folks now, and I want to tell folks later that please help Jill Tahmooressi get her son released, because it takes money. The government's not paying for this, correct?
Oh, no, absolutely not. Andrew's already spent all of his life savings on attorney number 1 and number 2 that did absolutely nothing. They did a disservice, in fact.
And those were Mexican attorneys from Mexico.
Yes, you must have Mexican attorney representing you, because it's a totally different judicial system. It's not common law for criminal defense. It's called Napoleonic.
All right, well, let me give the it's www.andrewfreedomfund.com. andrewfreedomfund.com. Folks, is there a better cause right now that you could think of? There are a lot of great causes out there, but is there a better one than to help this nurse get her patriotic Marine son out of a Mexican prison? Now, having said all that, what a darn shame that we have to even talk about this because Mexico isn't on the other side of the world. Mexico isn't in the axis of evil. It's not North Korea. It's not Iran, where we have prisoners that are held there for months and months and months, and we have to send emissaries over to get them out. This should be a piece of cake if our government had any interest in getting them out, right?
Well, I have to say, interestingly, the night I crossed back into the USA on July 9th, his first hearing, the USA Customs Border Patrol actually looked in the car hoping he would see Andrew with me, and he said, you know what, last night a Mexican military by mistake crossed the border with his rifle, and we just sent him right back. So the fact that our friendly neighbor to the south is not as accommodating and forgiving as we are is frustrating, but I am confident that the due process, the judicial system in Mexico will work, and I'm just praying that the judge discerns the truth and that Mr. Benitez puts forth a very compelling argument of innocence.
All right, and we all are hoping for that. We're all praying for that. We'll certainly have you back on that day, and we'd love also to be able to talk to your son. But I want to talk about something else that I said, the part of the question also. When's the last time anyone from the State Department or the White House talked to you?
Well, there's been silence for the most part from the White House. The legislative branch has been awesome in rallying for Andrew's support, but I did play the game. I did a whitehouse.gov petition, We the People. I had only 30 days to reach 100,000 signatures, which requires a response from President Obama. This is his platform. Total silence, though. May 30th, we achieved the 100,000 signatures by the goodwill of the great American public, but still no answer on that whitehouse.gov petition demanding the release of Sergeant Tahmooressi.
And okay, and have you been in contact with? I know the legislative branch has been wonderful. Various Congress people have stepped up in particular, but you have talked or had contact from someone in the State Department along the way, right?
Well, at the local level in Tijuana, Mexico, the U.S. Consulate Services has been doing exactly what their job is, and that's under the leadership of Consul General Andrew Erickson, who actually served in Afghanistan with Andrew. So yes, they make sure that Andrew has pastoral services, that he has a toothbrush, that he's got money in his bank account down there in Mexico so he can buy a Snickers bar, because you know his food and his protein source is very limited in jail, but he is able to buy from a commissary every other day. So those kinds of things the State Department is helping me with. But as far as the top of the chain, Secretary of State John Kerry, I know that he raised the issue May 21st. However, I would not label Sergeant Tahmooressi an issue. I would label him an urgent, grave, serious concern, one that needs expedition. So I am a little disappointed, to say the least.
Yeah, I would imagine you would have to be. When's the last time you talked to Andrew?
I spoke to him this morning. One of the blessings and liberties that he does have, even though he hasn't seen, daylight in more than 120 days, and he's in solitary confinement for his own protection, and I'm very grateful for that. He is able to call home every morning and every night. That is.
All right, and what is his state of mind? Last time we talked, I had told you, I read quotes, I think maybe he was on with Greta, and he had talked about things, and he put a positive spin on it, and you said that's Andrew, but you said probably that's not the case from what you could ascertain. So what's his mindset right now, and what's his day like?
Well, I'll tell you, on July 9th, before the judge for his first hearing, he was devastated that he did not get released that day. I was very worried about him. He does have PTSD. That's why he was in San Diego. He had just arrived and had started his treatment March 12th before he made that wrong turn on March 31st. He did, he's in concern. I mean, he is struggling. He's in captivity. And so I asked the State Department to increase their visits because I'm worried for him. There's a psychiatrist who comes and visits him, but they do not know how to treat foreign combat, PTSD. This is Mexico. They do not send their military to war. And there is a pastor that visits him. So I talk to him every day. I give him as much inspiration I can by telling him about what the American people are doing, about the legislative branch, people like you folks that, cover his fight for freedom, and that keeps him at least hopeful.
Well, we're glad to hear that he's he's keeping his chin up as best he can, and certainly when he speaks to you, if the tone you're expressing with us is any example, I'm sure you're giving him all the encouragement in the world, and he knows you're out there fighting for him. He couldn't have had a better advocate than you. And we're all praying for him. We're all thinking of him. He's not forgotten. I know you let him know that. And again, folks, it's www.andrewfreedomfund.com, andrewfreedomfund.com, because Jill has to pay Andrew's lawyers. The government is not doing it. And if there's some philanthropist out there or somebody with a boatload of money wants to really help out, I'm sure Jill and Andrew would welcome your help as well. Jill, we'll be in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Prayers, everyone. Thank you.
All right. Jill Tahmooressi, ladies and gentlemen, mother of imprisoned Marine Sgt. Andrew Tahmooressi. And that name has never crossed the lips of our president, in public anyway, and I'm sure not even crossed the mind of our president if I had to venture a guess. And it's a shame. And her son is not an issue. That's a message to John Kerry. All right, folks, up next, in case you missed it, Deputy Minister of Defense, former Deputy Minister for Israel, Danny Danon. Don't go away.